So in yesterday's video, I talked a bit about brawling battleships and timing pushes and all that. But when you get a brawling battleship and you see this kind of matchmaker with this map and this spawn, two brothers, Hannover, mid spawn. I think you know where this is going. I don't really have much choice in the matter, do I? I have to try and make a mid play work. So as we're pushing forward here, we do get spotted. I'm very intentionally trying to put my ship between these gaps in the islands here. I want to be spotted here because I want to know if something is potentially coming down this channel with me. Mainly the submarine, potentially destroyers as well. It's a very easy way to get YOLO'd and killed quickly in your brawling battleship if you just fly into this gap without really checking what's here. We're also going to drop some of these anti-submarine warfare airstrike thingies, and we can see people who have left their AA on. Unfortunately, I have AA HE loaded, so this Yodo is not going to take very much damage, but we'll fix that now. AP is definitely loaded. Unfortunate miss there on the first salvo at least, but we know that the guy spotting us was probably that Yodo. We know where a lot of the destroyers are at this point. We haven't seen the submarine yet. But they typically are going to one flank or another, so I'm playing a little cautious here. I am using my hydro, notice, so 6-kilometer hydro. We know there's nothing really in the gap, unless, of course, it's a very, very submerged sub. So I'm feeling pretty confident with pushing out, but not too far. The whole point of playing this gap is being a bit of bait, right? You're baiting the enemy team into pushing into you, trying to deal with you somehow, so they leave the flanks alone, and then that's how you win the game with your team. You have to play aggressive enough to be that bait and be enticing enough that they want to come get you, but not so far that you just rush in and die too quickly. And it's important that I'm slowing down here. Torpedoes are the biggest threat here, and I want to use this island to cover me from torpedoes. We see the Harugumo coming back, the Satsuma coming back, the Yamato coming back. There's a lot of ships coming back. There's potentially a Yodo around, which of course does have a lot of torpedoes, so we're not going to push very far at all. In fact, we're stopping here so that we have our guns ready to shoot at anything that approaches us in the gap, but we're ready to reverse, which means the enemy ship that wants to come YOLO us has to take a long time to push into us, and hopefully we can kill them by that time. Either secondaries or main guns. I should say I'm still using the hybrid build on the Hannover, and this is really why I think the Hannover especially, but all German battleships, a hybrid build is more interesting. Island usage like this can enable some of this close-range brawling action. And, well, this Yodo, we had AP this time, so Dev Strike #1, we take those. Feels good, right? That first salvo. That extra accuracy we're getting on our main guns is really nice. And even with this hybrid build, we still have great secondary range. And it's really only in these matches where we can use islands to push up so aggressively that we're going to get a lot of value out of our secondaries. There's a lot of maps that are far more open where we're not really going to be able to use our secondaries. So on a map like this, would I have more value getting that full max range secondaries? Or is it just going to basically function the same as if I had a hybrid build, since the enemy ships are just going to be within that 11-kilometer hybrid build range anyway? That's what I'm asking myself a lot of the time. In other maps where we have a lot more open water, I'm going to gain far more value in those situations out of having a hybrid build where I have more main gun accuracy and reload than I would in these situations from having the full secondary build, because the secondaries are still really, really strong even without fully building for them. As we can see, the Harugumo is pushing in. Our hydro is down, unfortunately. The Satsuma is not pushing in, which is probably smart from his side of things. So we have to be a little bit careful here. The Harugumo is on half HP. A good AP salvo into him probably would take him down pretty low enough that our secondaries can deal with him. But notice he's not actually pushing us. He's just getting to the corner of this island. So I'm not sure what his plan necessarily was. But when I see this, I accelerate immediately. The Harugumo is not a very maneuverable DD. I thought he was going to try and YOLO around the corner, dump both torpedo sets off at us using his torpedo reload booster, and then, you know, accept that he's going to die, but try and get a lot of torps in on the Schlieffen and I. But he decides not to do that. And since Harugumo is so slow and clumsy with maneuvering, I want to push forward and get my secondaries and hopefully kill this guy before he can even maneuver his ship to get torpedoes off on us. That's the idea here, at least. Our hydros come back. Earlier, I did ask the Schlieffen to pop his hydro, since we can alternate hydros and do a pretty good job of things. So I'm waiting until a reasonable time where I think the Schlieffen hydro will be running out. Again, the Hannover is a much better German battleship than most, thanks to these improved turret angles. The Preußen, the GK certainly would not have had its rear turrets firing at this Harugumo. So we don't quite kill him, but we are going to be able to dodge these torpedoes. So now that the DD's been dealt with, the enemy team really only has a submarine left. It's time to push. Our team is taking control of the D side, and we can come through here on basically full health in a German super battleship and be basically within 10 kilometers of the entire rest of the enemy team. So this is going to be a really, really fun push. And the Hannover, while not necessarily as strong as the Satsuma or the Patrie and these open water maps, it's devastatingly powerful here and a lot of fun to play. So if you've been thinking German line, German battleships, there are opportunities like this that do come up where I think they're still a ton of fun and worth getting. However, this is not what you can expect normally in most games, alright? This is the rare example where we get everything working together, matchmaker, the actual map we got, and even the team support, right? We got DDs coming around to spot with us, we got a Schlieffen rolling with us, we're going to have a Ruprecht as well, so tons of secondary power, and here we go. What do we shoot at first? Well, there's a broadside Satsuma. Looking back on things, I probably should have looked at the Schlieffen and probably shot him, but I was getting a little bit greedy for this broadside Satsuma. I was hoping that we could maybe even dev strike him. We'll see though. He's pretty broadside still. We use our secondary consumable now that we're getting into the thick of things. And I'm just trying to make sure my rear turrets get past this island. And I think that might have waited a little too long. So we get 3 shatters. Pretty disappointing. I think we probably should have got citadels there still. Yes, Satsuma does have a thick armor belt. Yes, he was reasonably angled, but I mean, the icon in the bottom left corner there still showed green, which means auto bounce really isn't taken into effect. So pretty disappointed there in the moment. I was pretty upset about that, but we do overmatch into the cheek of the citadel there, and everything's fine. We do take some big hits here, but Hannover has so much HP that we can deal with that. And just like that, we've taken out basically the rest of the enemy team. Two Brothers, man. I love this map. It's such a unique, interesting experience compared to a lot of the other maps where we get just a lot of open water, spawn-to-spawn sniping, and the islands don't really prevent people from shooting across the map at each other. Here, the mid-islands are so big that it creates 2 very distinct battlegrounds with a risky but very high reward potential middle channel gap that if you're brave enough, you can use and have some pretty amazing results. It's not necessarily a map design I would want to see over and over again, but I do think some more creative maps like this, which would limit firing angles, which would limit how people can maneuver around the map, give some very risky but potentially high rewarding plays, I think that would be very interesting to see in maps as we move forward with World of Warships these days. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen though, because this is one of the only maps that actually plays differently from the standard formula that they've kind of found themselves in. And this one's been in the game for so long at this point that I don't see us really getting anything more that's going to be super creative, which is too bad, because I generally enjoy my time on Two Brothers. Not always, but generally it's pretty interesting. Even if I don't YOLO it down the middle, there's always something interesting about this map where we can push or at least take some smaller engagements where the enemy team and my team is split half and half. It's a little more like ranked in that way. Less ships on the battlefield or the play area that you're playing means that you have more opportunities to push and have more dynamic gameplay, at least in my opinion. So there we go, 4 kills, 210,000 damage, 3 close quarters experts. An amazing Hannover game, lots of fun. And Two Brothers plus this matchmaker really helped it work. I knew as soon as I saw that initial matchmaker and my spawn, I knew I just had to go middle, and it worked out. So a game like this really shows why I like the hybrid build a little bit better. It's in these close range brawls that I'm generally getting the same value that I would get out of the full secondary build anyway, and I get a lot better experiences in those open water maps. Here's the build that I was using. I am giving up concealment. I do want those extra beefy heals and more of them. We definitely want fire prevention and manual secondary battery aiming. It's very, very useful. I think that you could run something like close quarters combat, but this emergency repair expert is extremely useful in those open water maps where you're probably going to take some serious pain throughout the entire match, basically, at longer ranges. You want to be able to heal with this massive HP pool. And here's the upgrades. Again, pretty standard stuff, I would say, given that we're trying to focus on our guns a little bit more. And we still did great work with our secondaries, even with this more hybrid build. That's just the nature of being close range in a German battleship. They're going to do really, really well, assuming you have just a couple of those skills. A little bit of range, definitely the accuracy on the commander. It's going to do really well anyway. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This one was very entertaining to play. I hope you had a fun time watching it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.